Today, we're diving into a really foundational story from a religious text, the story of Seth, who was the son of Adam and Eve. It's an incredible narrative, really, about hitting rock bottom, finding hope, and how one single life can completely change the course of history. So here's how we're going to walk through this. We'll start with his family's despair, then see how he became this son of hope. We'll look at the righteous life he lived. And finally, we'll unpack the amazing legacy he left behind. All right, so to really get why Seth's birth was such a huge deal, we first have to understand just how dark things had gotten for his parents. I mean, Adam and Eve were at a total breaking point. They had just lived through the worst tragedy imaginable. Their son Abel was gone, murdered, and their other son, Cain, was lost to wickedness. So you can imagine they're facing this huge question about what to do next. Just think about that for a second. The text says that after all their children, they felt they had no righteous heir left. The temptation to just give up, to decide that raising a family was nothing but pain, was, well, it was overwhelming. So, this was the fork in the road they were facing. On one hand, they could just retreat, focus on their own comfort and avoid any more heartache. Or they could push forward on faith, trusting in a bigger plan that they couldn't even really see yet. Okay, so let's get to the turning point in this whole story, because the choice they made, well, according to this text, it changed absolutely everything. The source really frames their choice as something more than just a family decision. It was a profound spiritual act. And it says that because they had the faith to have another son, they unlocked what's called a marvelous blessing. Get this. This was Adam's age when Seth was finally born, and his arrival was an immediate shift. The text actually calls this the start of their golden years of happiness, something that must have felt totally impossible just a little while before. So, you see, Seth's birth wasn't just a comfort, it was a catalyst. It instantly flipped the entire family's outlook, taking them from sorrow and despair right into a life full of joy and a new sense of purpose. So, what was it about Seth that made him so different from his siblings? Let's take a look at how the source describes his character and the kind of life that he lived. The text puts a really strong emphasis on this idea of resemblance. It claims Seth was a mirror image of Adam, not just in how he looked, but in his righteousness. It was like he embodied the ideal that his father stood for. Now, this brings us to a really key detail. After what the source calls the soul-searing experience with Cain, Adam became incredibly careful about giving out religious authority. It wasn't enough to just be good at the start of your life. You had to prove it over a long, long time. And that's how long Adam waited. He didn't ordain his beloved, righteous son Seth until he was 69 years old. He demanded a long, long period of proven faithfulness before he'd entrust him with that kind of authority. This timeline, wow. It really puts the immense scale of his life into perspective. I mean, we're talking about a ministry that lasted for over 8 centuries, a life of almost 1,000 years, all dedicated to the principles he was taught. But here's the thing. Seth wasn't just a good person. He was a builder. He was a scholar, helping to keep the sacred books of remembrance. He was a leader who preached and prophesied, and he saw his community grow into this powerful force for good. His own writings even became part of their sacred texts. Okay, let's move into the final section and see how this one life is said to have had a permanent, lasting impact on all of humanity, according to this source. This event is really presented as the capstone of Seth's long and faithful life. At 797 years old, he gets this final blessing from his father, Adam, and it contained some incredibly profound promises. And his blessing, it wasn't just about Seth. It was a promise for all of his descendants, forever. It basically established that his family line would endure, carry divine authority, and be absolutely central to how sacred history would unfold. And this is where the story makes its most staggering claim. The text asserts that Seth's lineage was the one that survived, the one that thrived, to the point that every single person alive today is said to be his descendant. In this telling, his personal story of righteousness literally becomes the story of all humanity. So this ancient account really leaves us with a powerful question to think about. It shows us a world that was renewed through the faith of 2 parents and the integrity of 1 son. And it makes you wonder,
What is the immense world-shaping potential of a single dedicated life?